Let's get some facts. 37% of you aren't subscribed to this channel. That's almost 4 out of 10 just freeloading the alpha. So come on, hit subscribe and I promise to keep leveling up the show with the best guests and the juiciest insight. Go on, do it now.
Welcome back to Real Vision. In another episode of our Thursday series, Best Of, we're pulling out of the vault and making sure it's resurfaced for everyone to see Raoul's first interview with Peter Diamandis on the Real Vision platform all the way back in October 2021. Since it's Trading the Future week here at Real Vision, we thought this was the perfect piece, as in many ways it kickstarted Raoul's exponential age journey. And Peter is one of the leaders in this space. Make sure and check it out. Thanks for watching, everybody, and don't forget to like and subscribe.
Peter, fantastic to get you on Real Vision. I've wanted to get you on for a long time to pick your brains about all sorts of things.
Well, a pleasure to be here, and my brain is ready for the picking.
Before we get into all sorts of interesting stuff, I'd love to hear your story, because you've got an incredible story that I think people will find very inspiring, and it also frames how you think and why you think these things.
Sure. In brief, I was born in the 60s, and it was really the Apollo program and that, what I call that scientific documentary Star Trek, that got me going and excited about the world. And I became passionate about space. My parents were both in the medical field. My father was a physician, wanted to become a doctor. And so I sort of buried my passions around space and went and got a 6-pack of degrees and a medical degree and molecular genetics and so forth. But all the time I was passionate about space. And when I got my medical diploma, I remember making a color photocopy and sending it to my parents, and then promptly, jumping out of the medical path and really focusing on space. And for me, the final frontier holds incredible opportunity for humanity, right? Everything we've ever held of value on Earth, metals, minerals, energy, real estate, are in near infinite quantities in space. And whatever we evolve to become, as a species in the future, it's going to be off-world, and the predominance of humanity will be off-planet. Having said that, I started a university called the International Space University, started a rocket company, satellite communications company, Zero G, which is weightless parabolic flights for flying people into weightlessness, which I've done, hundreds of times now, and flew Stephen Hawking into Zero G, which was an incredible experience, the world's expert in gravity into zero gravity. We can talk about that. And then the X Prize, of course, which was a $10 million prize to inspire a new generation of rockets that can carry you and me and our friends into space. That became Virgin Galactic when Richard Branson bought the rights to create his vehicle. And, after my focus in space, which I still am super passionate about, I became enamored with exponential technologies. I'd gotten to know Ray Kurzweil, who became my co-founder at Singularity University, and had read his book, The Singularity is Near, and realized that, as much as my passion of space was capturing my mind, what really was happening right now that was transforming the entire planet was the implications of these exponential technologies, riding on top of Moore's law, this explosive capability, right? So computation, sensors, networks, AI, robotics, 3D printing, synthetic biology, augmented virtual reality, blockchain, all these technologies were exploding at the same time that computation. So, for 20 years, through Singularity University, through a program where I coach leaders and CEOs and entrepreneurs called Abundance 360, I've really been tracking how all these exponential technologies are reinventing industries. And my third act, if you would, has been focused on longevity, which I really got involved in, sort of going back to my early medical roots. I became enamored with the idea that we're in a position this coming decade to be adding 10, 20, 30 healthy years on a person's life. And, my mission is making 100 years old than you 60, right? Or than you 50. but what are the implications for that? And if you can add those 10, 20, 30 healthy years, what new breakthroughs will you intercept? Will you encounter that might add another 20, 30, 50, 100 years on your life? So, these are the games I play in, and I've got a $500 million venture fund, Cobalt Capital, a bunch of companies in the longevity space, which we can talk about. And so that's me in a nutshell. I have a few New York Times books. Yeah.
I mean, incredible. Did you think when you started, when you were the boy thinking about space, that you would be so involved in the kind of future of where the world is going?
I don't know that I was early on. What I found was when I followed my passion, what I wanted to do, not what I was told to do, it was extraordinary and fun, right? So I have a few times I've started a business. I'm on my 24th or 25th company these days. A few times I started a company just to make money. And those were dismal failures because they didn't capture my heart and my soul. But when I've started something, whether it's a nonprofit, a for-profit, whatever it is, where I really believe in it, where I'm willing to go that extra mile, that's where I end up with success. So I really speak to passion-driven entrepreneurial journeys.
And I guess that passion gives you both the momentum and the ability to cope with doing so much, because you're doing an extraordinary amount of stuff for one person. I mean, sure, you've got a team and everything else, but it's a lot.
Yeah, it is. I appreciate it. And, I like to say I've got two jobs. One is to allow my passion to keep me excited so I can convey it to people. And the second is to find great people to run the business day to day. So I typically, when I start a company, will take a role as chairman or vice chairman or executive chairman, whatever, and hire a CEO to run the business day to day. And sometimes I'm lucky in finding an amazing, leader, and sometimes I'm not. And then it's painful, but just like everybody else.
Yeah, because suddenly you have to get your hands dirty because you've got the wrong person in the role, but you get there eventually.
Yeah.
So I'd love to dig into some of these kind of key areas. We had a fantastic conversation with somebody who's now gone into the space business, in investing in the space business. And he came out of the Jet Propulsion Labs at NASA and kind of explained where he saw space going, which was, he was talking about, yes, we should have a base station on the moon pretty soon. Yes, we'll start mining. Yes, we're creating networks. Yes, all the satellites. How do you think space is going to evolve? If you're looking out, let's not worry yet about the next 20 years, but let's think about the next 10, because things are moving so fast now. This is a reality.
They are. There's no question at all. And they're moving fast for a number of reasons, which, number one, two of the wealthiest people on the planet, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. I've known Jeff for almost 40 years and Elon for 22 years or thereabouts. And they have the disposable income, so to speak, or they have the ability to fund it. And up until the last decade, it's always been government funded. And government funding comes with a lot of risk aversion. It's like you're not willing to try something radically different if you're a government agency, because if it fails, there's a congressional investigation, you're going to get fired. And so if you're not willing to take risks, you're stuck in incrementalism. And ultimately, nothing moves very fast, right? The Apollo program was an exception because we were, basically in the United States battling the Soviet Empire, and we had to, they had crushed us with Sputnik in 1957 and getting the first human, Gagarin, in 1961, and we needed to do something to demonstrate. So we took a lot of risks. The Apollo program was very risky, but nothing really since then, or very few things since then. And individuals have a much higher predilection for taking risks and the ability. And so we see folks like Richard Branson and Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and a multitude of others. So that's the first thing that's different. The second thing is the technology is available now to do these things, like 3D printing rocket engines or 3D printing entire rockets. Like One of my venture fund is called Bold Capital. And one of the investments that we made at Bold was a company also out here in Los Angeles where I'm based called Relativity Space. And two young co-founders, one out of Blue Origin, one out of SpaceX, said, could we 3D print an entire rocket? And they started on that journey, and they built the world's largest metal 3D printer they call Stargate, which is a cool name. And the idea is that if you can 3D print the entire rocket, in their case, they're hoping for 95%, then you could do that 3D printing of a rocket in LA, Detroit, Abu Dhabi, Colombo, Sri Lanka,
Colombo, Sri Lanka,
Sri Lanka. It's any place. And the idea being that you dematerialized and democratized access to these technologies. So it's insane. And then finally, of course, the whole, microelectronics and data that's enabling us to do so much more in smaller packages. But what's coming this decade, to go to your question, what I'm tracking right now is, without question, it's what SpaceX is doing. So, Elon and Gwen Shotwell, who runs SpaceX for Elon on a day-to-day basis, it's not a little bit better or not 2x or even 10x. It feels like it's 100x better than any other space company out there. They've gotten Falcon 9 operational with reusability very consistently on the first stage. And then what's coming next is Starship, which is a capability that's fully reusable, that has the ability to take 100 people to orbit, and land on the surface of the moon and go beyond the moon to Mars. And it's a transformative approach, and everything we've, ever built thus far doesn't compare. So a lot's coming there. And of course, Bezos is a brilliant entrepreneur and CEO, and he's behind the power curve on SpaceX right now, but he'll catch up. And he's committed whatever capital it takes. Elon's focused on Mars, moon first, because NASA wants to go there, Mars in the long term. Jeff is focused on the moon and really setting up the moon as a base, but then going from the moon to free Earth, what we call O'Neill colonies. These are large rotating cylinders where you're living on the inside and it's accommodating 1 million people, eventually, taking humanity off the planet irreversibly to the stars. And I don't think it's a matter of if, it's just a matter of when these days.
I mean, one of the things I look at is these exponential charts, and one of them is satellites going up into space. For years, it was kind of steady. Then the US kind of opened it up, and now it's gone truly exponential. And if you map out what Elon's doing alone, and that's excluding what people like India are now doing, I mean, everybody's setting satellites up and they cost nothing in comparison. And that creates a whole different set of opportunities of linking kind of all of that space around of the Earth.
Yeah, no question. We're going to have laser communication, satellite to satellite. We'll have basically the interplanetary internet, where you'll have connectivity around the moon, connectivity around Mars, connectivity wherever we go. And, what I'm most excited about, Raoul, is the notion that the real opportunities are going to be mining the asteroids. And that's been a passion of mine, right? These rocks that are flying sometimes near the Earth, if they hit us, it's a problem. The ones that are between Mars and Jupiter and what we call near Earth approaching asteroids, some of these rocks are either rich in water or ice, particularly, which can be broken down to make hydrogen and oxygen, which is rocket fuel, or they're rich in platinum group metals, platinum, palladium, iridium, osmium. And these are multi-trillion-dollar assets in space that we're going to, just like when the European settlers came over from Europe to the Americas, they brought their tools, but they were able to mine, if you would, the resources locally to develop the societies, the early American colonies. And the same thing will happen in space.
It feels to me that this is basically going to add an entire layer of GDP that didn't exist because, we're kind of confined by the physical world. We'll talk about the metaverse and other stuff in due course, but in the physical world, we're constrained by resources. And what you're basically saying is a lot of those resources will no longer be constrained.
They won't be. And, I teach this in my Abundance 360 executive programs. It's a year-round program, and it's the highest level for Singularity University, that in an abundance mindset, you begin to realize that there's nothing truly scarce. And that what exponential technologies are is the force that takes whatever was scarce and makes it abundant. And we can talk about, multiple examples, right? Energy used to be scarce. We used to go and kill whales on the ocean to get whale oil. Then we ravaged mountainsides to get coal. Then we drilled kilometers under the ocean floor. But we live on a planet that's 8,000 times more energy coming from the sun that we consume as a species. It's just not in a usable form, right? What would you think of as more scarce than a perfect diamond, right? A 4, 5, 6, 10 carat diamond. De Beers taught us that you should spend, what is it, like 2 months of your salary to buy your diamond engagement ring. Well, it turns out that we can now manufacture perfect gems, perfect diamonds, rubies, emeralds, whatever you want, and for effectively no cost. It's the cost of methane, electricity, and water. And there are companies like the Diamond Foundry that manufacture this. In fact, the largest jewelry company on the planet just announced this past year that they're going to stop buying, naturally mined gems, and they're going to manufacture them because there's no, child labor, no, ethical issues, and it's a better deal for everybody involved. So we go from scarcity to abundance, right? Google has given us an abundance of information. We'll talk about longevity later. And if we can, start to add 10, 20, 30 healthy years, that buys you the next 10, 20, 30 healthy years, then time starts becoming abundant as well.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I've been looking at is anything that gets digitized goes to zero in cost, which is essentially what you're talking about. And, we're going to be in a world not far away where the cost of electricity is zero.
Yeah, it is true. And if you've got abundant available energy, right? And one of the things that I talk about is that the poorest countries in the world are the sunniest countries in the world, right? Really important implications there. If you have abundant, or let's call it even a squanderable abundance of energy, you can get all the water you want. You can pull water out of the atmosphere. You can desalinate water. And if you have clean water, half the disease burden of planet Earth is due to unclean drinking water. So all of these dominoes begin to tip. You have electricity for internet, or to have lights at night for you to read if you're a student. So this becomes an extraordinary world of abundance.
Looking at the next part of your thesis is the exponentiality of all of these technologies. We can't talk about all of them, but there's so many things that are now not ideas. They might have been 10 years ago, like 3D printing was just rolling out, but now these things are all going exponential as they're starting to be adopted, and all these networks are interconnecting. How is this all playing out? Because I'm not sure humans are quite prepared for the amount of change we're about to see, because everything is about to change.
I agree with you. I agree with you. Well, I mean, listen, I've got 10-year-old twin boys, and they are thriving in this universe, right? The challenge is that the majority of our government leadership are typically in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and they're not prepared for the level of change. So it's the institutions, whether it's government institutions, religious institutions, or the industrial complex that's in place. Those are the groups that are going to have the hardest difficulty. I wrote my last book, which came out over a year ago, called "The Future is Faster Than You Think." I looked at what the next decade looks like. What does 2021 through 2030 look like? And painted the picture for how every single industry is going to change. Not a little bit, dramatically, right? I don't care what industry, health, education, insurance, finance, all of these industries are going to get disrupted. And it's not going to be your traditional company that's disrupting you, right? It's not going to be the healthcare companies, down the street that disrupts you. It's, if you're in the healthcare industry, it's going to be Amazon or Google or, Apple, or the multitude of startups coming our way. And the beneficiary for all of this disruption is going to be the general public, right? It's not going to be just disrupting for the heck of disrupting, right? So when Zoom disrupts the travel industry and allows people to work from home, listen, the travel industry suffers, and the large real estate companies that are holding all these office buildings suffer. But the public, the general public, it's like, oh my God, this incredible free resource. It makes my life that much easier. So yes, there's going to be challenges, and we're not prepared for the speed of change. But I am an optimist in terms of these technologies, for the most part, serving humanity and elevating humanity.
And how do you think through the replacement of humans in the labor force, and how we prepare for that, or what role humans might play in a different way?
Real important question. And, I write about this a lot in the following way. To date, we haven't seen a replacement happen, even though it's been discussed and talked about forever, for decades, right? The first time there was a letter written by a bunch of Nobel laureates and top scientists and economists to the President of the United States, warning about the massive disruption in the labor force coming from automation. And that letter was written in the 1960s. And we've seen none of that, right? We used to have rooms filled with individuals, mostly women, copying ledger to ledger to ledger in these banks. And all the automation was going to replace that. And it did. But guess what? We have more employees in banks than any time ever in human history. And so what we're seeing to date is very few of those jobs actually getting replaced. We will replace the jobs that are dull and dangerous and dirty. Those will go away, and robots and AI will replace them. But what we're going to see in the next decade is really around AI human collaboration, where it's individuals working with AI, not being displaced by them. And the other thing I think we'll start to see is the realization that we can divide ourselves into two groups. People who are doing what they absolutely love, what you and I are doing right now, and then people who are doing a job because they want to put food on their table, get insurance for their families. And the hope is that technology will enable people to do what they love more than ever before, and less for just having to earn a living.
One of the things I've been thinking through as well is the development of the metaverse. So the kind of digital world that we're all going to inhabit in the future. And again, it feels like space to me. It's like discovering the Americas again. There's plenty of new opportunities that we can't imagine. And yes, we will be working alongside AI within that world, but it feels like the opportunities are going to be abundant in many respects.
Yeah, so I track that very carefully. I think of the metaverse as the convergence of, XR, I'll call VR and AR together, augmented and virtual reality, convergence of that, AI and blockchain. And we're going to start to spend more and more of our time in the virtual world. We will have a citizenship, I'm a US citizen, and I will have an additional citizenship in virtual worlds. And in those virtual worlds, the ability to experiment is a lot easier. You can experiment with new governments, with new voting systems, new regulatory systems. You can experiment with new currencies. You can start to experiment. So the velocity and the agility of experimentation is going to go up tremendously. I'm on the board of a company called VATOM, VATOM, which stands for Virtual Atoms, that a brilliant entrepreneur, Eric Poulier, has created. He was the very first person to come up with NFTs back, 5-6 years ago. He has a company called Spatial Web, which is sort of a three-dimensional, metaverse application that's extraordinary. And I'm just tracking this, and we have, it's a much bigger opportunity than when we first saw www. And the convergence of new headgear that's going to come from Apple and HTC and a multitude of startups, and 5G and 6G that's coming. All of these things are going to transform how we interact with content. It's going to transform the entire educational system, which is really insanely broken right now.
Yeah, I mean, 100% agree. Also, I think you raised an interesting point that I've been talking about as well, is we're creating digital sovereign states, and they're highly adaptive states that don't have the restrictions we have, because they have a system of money, they have an organizing set of principles, and all the things that make up a state or a religion, or however you can control complex adaptive systems. It feels like that's coming, and your token is your access to that world, let's say.
Yeah.
We're still desperate for digital identity.
Yes, that digital identity is fundamental to this future universe. Sovereign identity, in other words, that you own your identity, not Facebook or Google or anybody else. And then having, with that identity, a wallet that allows you to receive and make payments in crypto. Those two things are coming, and there are amazing entrepreneurs working on both. And then they just unlock a universe that we haven't really even a glimmer of understanding yet.
So, a quick break in your regular programming. If you're serious about your future, grab my free report called Prepare for 2030. I think you've got 5 years to make as much money as possible, and this guide will help you navigate what's coming. The link is in the description. Download it now. Yeah, I think so. The other thing is, where do you think about the centralization versus decentralization debate? We can see Zuckerberg wanting to create some sort of centralized version of what he thinks the metaverse is, and Tim Sweeney at Epic Games and others saying no, and the whole kind of blockchain industry saying no, we're going to have this fight.
I think it's going to be a fight, and I think it will be decentralized. And you, as a user, need to be able to take your identity, what you own, your attributes, whatever superpowers you've developed, and take it from I don't want to call them metaverse to metaverse, but it's going to be from application layer to application layer. But it's, today, if you develop something in Minecraft or Roblox or Axie Infinity, you don't have the portability to take it to other locations. But that will change. The user interfaces, the ones that are, open will win is the final, for me, is the most important thing. That open ecosystems will, in the long run, vastly outdo closed ecosystems.
Do you think people are underestimating the size of what blockchain is in terms of what it means for all of us? Because people are still kind of fixated on Bitcoin or Ethereum without understanding that is basically the architecture for the internet of value across everything. How are you thinking it through?
Yeah, no, I agree 1,000%. The moment when every single thing is uniquely identifiable, uniquely valued, and uniquely ownable in the digital world, or even, and that's where that company I mentioned, VATOM, is focused, is when you go between the virtual world and the real world, and being able to get a virtual Coke in a game that has a unique blockchain identifier, and being able to then take it into the real world and get an actual Coke for that. I mean, it seems a very simple thing, but where there is going to be the complete portability between the real world and the virtual world. And I mean, I don't know how to explain it other than it is the biggest opportunity for wealth measurement and creation on the planet. as we tokenize real estate, we tokenize everything.
And it's pretty democratic. Everybody can get involved. Unlike space, this is something we can all do, right?
Yeah, it is going to be democratic if it's done properly, which I think there's enough leadership and enough independence that it will be done democratically. I don't think, no matter, I don't think any government or individual billionaire will have the ability or clout, to fight this decentralized network of networks and leaders.
So with you being involved in so many areas, how do you think about investing across this? Because, with your funds now, you're investing. What opportunities are you looking at? How do you think about the asset allocation amongst these ideas at the moment? We'll come on to longevity afterwards, but I've just there's so much technology here.
So let's see. Let's start with cryptocurrency. I try and keep most of my my liquid assets, my cash, if you would, in Bitcoin and Ethereum. I'm probably 80% Bitcoin, 20% Ethereum, just roughly. I use a wallet called Abra to store it in. I
know Bill well, Bill Burnham.
Yeah, Bill's amazing, and I love the company. And when I can get 5% interest rates on my cryptocurrencies, why wouldn't you want to do that, right? Or 10% on cash. So that's my position. And then unique real estate when I can, as a asset that is unlikely to devalue rapidly. I mean, one of the biggest questions is, where are you putting your currency? If it's putting it in US dollars or pesos or other thing, you're devaluing your currency at an extraordinary rate from inflation. People think, oh my God, my real estate's gone up or my stocks have gone up. Yeah, but look at the inflation rates. It's all artificial. So, and I'm very long in tech. And the majority of the tech that I'm in is biotech and longevity related. So my fund, Bold Capital, about 70 to 75% are in the biotech, health tech field, right? I think honestly, at the end of the day, you still can't take it with you. And the biggest business opportunity is going to be if I can give you 20, 30, 40 healthy years. I mean, you're going to spend your money anyway. You can spend it in the last year of your life in crazy Hail Mary passes and the latest whatever to try and keep yourself alive after you're 99% of the way into the grave. Or you can start to use it wisely to change your health span earlier in your life and do those smart things. So that's where I'm investing into. If that makes sense for you.
Yeah, totally. So let's go down the longevity journey. I mean, I started on this journey, I think, from Tim Ferriss, and I heard you on Tim Ferriss years ago. And then David Sinclair's book was fantastic, because it brought all the science in one place and made it clear. But there's a lot more to it than that. As you said, there's so much genetic science going on. How are you seeing this space, the longevity space? Because I'm super interested in this as well.
Yeah, sure. And for those who don't think about it this way, I talk about having a longevity mindset. And a longevity mindset involves actually having the belief that what used to be old age is no longer the limit, that we're going to be creating the technologies this decade. We're going to see incredible breakthroughs that will add decades to your life. And I'm searching for them everywhere. I'm building companies around them. I'm investing in them. There's a concept called longevity escape velocity, which I'm sure you've probably heard of from Aubrey de Grey and Ray Kurzweil. And it's the notion that today, for every year that you're alive, science is extending your life for about a quarter of a year. But as we said, exponential technologies are expanding at record growth. And there's going to be a point in the near future where for every year you're alive, science is extending your life for more than a year. And that's what we call longevity escape velocity. And so I'm tracking that. I'm working, one of the things that I'm proud of is the work I do with the X Prize Foundation. We offer out these large cash prizes. We just launched a $100 million gigaton carbon removal prize with Elon Musk. And I'm working right now on a $100 million age reversal X Prize for the teams that can reverse your age and my age by at least 20 years, right? And then have it be repeatable. That's the current mindset, that aging is a disease that can be slowed, stopped, and even reversed. So I'm super, David Sinclair has become a very dear and close friend, George Church and multitude. Tony Robbins and I have just completed a book right now that's coming out in February of 22 called Life Force. And it's a tour de force of all of the incredible technologies that are transforming health care. It's like all the breakthroughs around cancer, all the breakthroughs around Alzheimer's, all the breakthroughs around obesity, all the breakthroughs around, heart disease. I mean, it's like, and then looking at gene therapies and looking at CRISPR technologies and this book is if you're not optimistic about our ability to add, tremendous years on our health span, you will be after you read this book. So super pumped about it. It's meant to be of service to the world to say, listen, guys, this is the most exciting time ever to be alive. And it's never been better. The only time more exciting than today is going to be tomorrow. And here's what's in phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 clinical trials. Here's what's coming down the pike.
I mean, how the hell do you keep on top of it all?
Oh, it's incredibly difficult. It's incredibly difficult. And so I'll tell you one thing I've done is I created an AI engine that scans all the world's science and tech news every day, hundreds of thousands, millions of articles. And I used to have a team doing this, and it just became inefficient. And so I created a neural net that the neural net consumed all my books, all my blogs, and it said, this is the kind of stuff that Peter's interested in. And then it created a positive semantic filter. I'm not interested in dystopian news. I don't care what the Kardashians did or, what Britney Spears is doing, just zero interest in that. But I am interested in how converging exponential technologies are transforming industries. How are they going to transform every industry out there? So I created two elements. They're free to everybody. People can go to futureloop.com and sign up. It's free. Every day you'll get a blog. You'll get an email of like the top 15 articles with a beautiful summary, an image, a title of this is a breakthrough coming from converging technologies that are going to change space or energy or whatever, all these industries.
Is this written by GPT-3 or is this by a human?
We are using GPT-3, but it's fully autonomous. I have an incredible head of AI in our team, Morgan McDermott, who's written everything. And GPT-3 will just improve the quality of it. But I use that every day to track all of the converging exponentials. And then, so it's futureloop.com, and then you can go to longevityinsider.org. And that's again, an AI created newsletter that I use. Everything that's going on in the longevity space. It's scanning all the tweets, journal articles, newspapers, magazines, everything.
What a fantastic idea, because it's so hard to keep on top of. And by applying technology to do it for you and then delivering it in a way that's digestible, this is a genius idea. Well done.
Thank you. So I hope folks will use it. My mission is to get people out of the dystopian mindset that you get from watching Fox or CNN, which I call the crisis news network, where every murder on the planet is delivered to you in high fidelity every second of the day. It's like, I don't need to know this stuff. I really don't.
No, I think there's a fear around change that I notice everywhere. You see it on the internet. People fear change. It's a mindset. But if you can flip the mindset to say this is the opportunity, the best opportunity we've ever had, whether it's as an investor or as humans, it kind of opens your eyes to how amazing this all is.
Oh, it is. I'll just mention a few other companies that I've started in the longevity space. One company I'm very proud of called Cellularity is the largest cellular manufacturing company. We collect placentas. When a baby is born, you can store not only the cord blood, but the placenta with us. And the placenta, I think of as the 3D printer that manufactures the baby. It generates all of the stem cells, all the cells from that baby. And so from the placentas, we generate a very rich supply of newborn stem cells, of natural killer cells and T cells that are useful in fighting viruses and fighting cancers. And there's a whole cells as medicine line of business that Cellularity has. The company just went public like 2 months ago. Another company is called Vaccinity, Vaxxinity. And Vaccinity is developing vaccines to treat chronic diseases. So imagine you could vaccinate yourself against Alzheimer's, or vaccinate yourself against Parkinson's, or stroke, or heart disease, or migraines, or muscle loss, or bone loss. That's the business that the company is in. It's in phase 3, entering phase 3 trials on Alzheimer's, phase 2 in Parkinson's, phase 1 in stroke. And the value here is that this is about preventing chronic disease for pennies on the dollar. I mean, thousands of times cheaper than treating it afterwards is preventing it in the beginning. One other company is a company called Fountain Life. And we have 5 facilities in the US today. We'll have 10 by the end of 22. And when you come to Fountain Life, and you should do it, we digitize you. We do full body MRI, coronary CT driven by an AI algorithm, DEXA scan, full genomics, metabolomics, everything. And we upload 150 gigabytes of data about you. And the goal is to catch anything at stage 0, right? We're eventually going to die from something. Hopefully we'll extend life eventually. But most of us are optimists when we think about what's going on in our bodies. We actually have no idea, right? You end up in the ER with a pain in your side. The doc says, I hate to tell you this, but you've got this and this. Well, it didn't happen that morning. It's been going on for months, maybe years. And so every year through Fountain Life or another sister company called Health Nucleus, I go and I upload myself. And I do it every year. And I feel naked if I don't, because I want to know what's going on inside my body. And people say, I don't want to know. It's bullshit. Of course you want to know. You want to know, and you want to solve it at the very beginning. So anyway, those are just some examples.
Yeah, I'm taking lots of notes because there's all sorts of interesting stuff. And I'm at the age 53 years old that, I'm focused quite intensely. So let's talk a little bit about your own regime for longevity. What do you do for yourself? What are the tips you'd give me as a 53-year-old about, diet and supplements or whatever you think?
So let's run down it. There's lots of stuff coming, but let's not talk about the incredible gene therapies or with pathway manipulations or all of that coming. What you should be doing right now is, first of all, it's the basics. It's sleep, exercise, diet, and mindset. Let's talk about each. On the sleep front, when I was in medical school and graduate school, I used to, pride myself on getting by with 5.5 hours of sleep. And it's like, the realization is your body needs 8 hours of sleep, period. Whether you get it or not, that's what your body evolved to have. And ultimately, if Darwinian evolution could have done away with a couple hours of sleep, it would have, because we are not being productive. We're completely open to predation. We're very vulnerable when we're sleeping. And so if you can get away with not having to sleep, that would have been amazing. but we need our sleep. So I strive for that. My tricks are, first of all, I wear my Aura ring to measure it and gamify how much sleep I get. Second, I set my temperature in the room down to 65 degrees because a cold atmosphere keeps you sleeping longer and deeper sleep. I have what's called a chili pad, which is a water-cooled pad underneath the top blanket, and that cools down the bed. I use a mask to block out, which I love. It's called a Manta mask, M-A-N-T-A, and I use it all the time because it has a foam pad around the eyes and on top of that, so it's very comfortable to wear. And then I have a sleeping pattern I try and keep, which is I'm in bed whenever possible by 9:30, and I get up at 5:30, and that's my sleeping.
And do you take magnesium or anything like that?
I do take magnesium. On occasion, I'll take some melatonin, but I have a pretty good sleep record. So I have a whole slew of supplements I take. And in the book coming up, Life Force, I disclose in detail everything I'm taking, hormonally, peptides, nutraceuticals, supplements, and so forth. On diet, I've been a vegan for years. I went on keto diet for a year. I've tried all kinds of different things. And what I've come back to in the final result is there's no one diet for everybody. It just isn't. But there is one or two truths for everybody. And the first is get rid of sugar. It is the hardest thing in the world, but sugar is the killer. Sugar causes inflammation. Sugar causes heart disease. Sugar causes neuroinflammation.
When you're talking about sugar, are you just talking about sugar itself, or are you talking about carbohydrates in certain forms?
So first and foremost,
I've been doing keto for 3 years, and it works well for me. But
first and foremost, it's getting rid of pure sugars, right? I mean, like your breakfast cereal is poison. Your a tub of ice cream, all those things. Now, it doesn't mean I'm an angel. It doesn't mean I don't have a piece of chocolate or something once in a while, but I look at sugar as cutting my life short. That's the way I physically look at it. And yes, getting rid of high glycemic carbohydrates, white rice, white breads, those sorts of things. I cut those out as well. So it's just reducing your blood sugar spikes, which are so dangerous. The next thing is intermittent fasting. I believe that intermittent fasting is super valuable. So I will not eat. In fact, I haven't eaten yet. It's 1:50 in the afternoon here in California. I will eat, after 1 o'clock. I'll have a lunch, typically like a Greek salad or something reasonably light. And then I'll have one main meal at dinner at 5:30.
You're kind of 16-8 or something like that?
I'm typically 19, whatever's left over, 19.5, like between 1 and 6.
Because I've been experimenting with kind of 20, 21, 3 or 4. I've enjoyed it.
It's whatever you can keep up, honestly.
Yeah. And what about that form of intermittent fasting versus like a full day fast once a week, 24-hour fast?
Yeah.
Does it make a difference or not really?
There's lots of debate. I don't have an answer. I don't know. If I don't know, I'm never gonna say. The other thing I do is lots of water. I try and do at least 2 liters, if not 3 liters of water a day. I got rid of all sodas. I'll typically, for protein, have fish. I stay away from all dairy and beef, but that's my preferences.
And if there's one, because I don't want to unveil what's in your book, because the book sounds fascinating. If there's one supplement that you think is easily available for the average person, is it vitamin D? Is it, what is it?
Yes. So, it's a lot of the same things that David Sinclair talks about in his most excellent book, Lifespan, right? So I take 1 gram of NMN. I do take 1 gram of metformin. I take vitamin D. I take high-grade fish oils. So those are some of the things that are there. But, I put out a blog once a year updating people what I take. If And by the way, if anybody goes to diamandis.com, I put out 2 or 3 blogs every week. Typically one is in longevity and 2 are in the exponential tech space. And you can, at diamandis.com, you'll get a prompt if you want to get the blog. But I'm very proud. I spend a lot of time writing these blogs as my way to communicate between books on, like I've got one going on sleep right now, and one on diet and exercise, and just keeping people updated. And then as breakthroughs are happening in the AI world, the robotics world, I think one of my abilities is to say, this is what just happened, and this is what it means to you in very simple language. Right.
Final question. This is all leading to the singularity. What does that mean to you?
So I don't think any of us truly appreciate how fast the world is changing, and that the rate of acceleration is itself accelerating. You know, the things that we take for granted right now, like what we're doing right now digitally for free, high bandwidth connectivity and FaceTime for free on the planet, and ability to know anything you want, anytime you want. And flying cars and autonomous cars are finally here. And it's like all of this stuff is so insanely amazing, you know, but you have no context. We're like at the frog in the water boiling, you know, but if you compare it to what even life was like just 10 years ago, it's incredible, right? So the fact that it's speeding up is what Ray Kurzweil calls the singularity, that there's going to be a moment in time where the rate of change is so fast that it's impossible to predict what's next. And that is going to be crazy. And this is when AI becomes superhuman. And this is also when humans start merging with AI. Right. We haven't talked about this, but another field we can spend an entire show on is the whole area of brain-computer interface. Right. So I'm tracking a lot of the brain-computer interfaces. Right. Our brain has 100 billion neurons, 100 trillion synaptic connections, and we're limited in what we can memorize and learn and so forth. But our cell phones get smarter because they do certain processing on the phone, and then they go to the edge of the cloud to do complicated things. Imagine if we can connect our brain to the cloud, so that, you know, we can think and Google. If you want to understand something, you could get additional computational capabilities. And Ray Kurzweil's prediction of when we're going to have this, you know, brain-computer interface is the early 2030s, like 10, 12 years from now.
Really?
You know, so, yeah, really. And so I would not have believed that, except I'm watching the companies do it. I'm watching these incredible companies, from, you know, Neuralink that Elon's funded to Open Water, which my venture fund has funded, from Mary Lou Jepsen, that can like read and write onto a neuron without going through the skull. It uses red laser light and holograms and ultrasound to do that. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. It's an incredible world coming our way at lightning speed, and it's going faster. So yeah, we have challenges. We also have more and more powerful tools than ever before to help us deal with those challenges.
Peter, look, fantastic conversation. I mean, I could have spoken to you for hours, because, you know, we just basically did a top level look at everything there, and there's so much. But, you know, I'm going to direct people to follow some of your stuff, because there's a lot of content you put out. You know, you help a lot of people get their heads around all of this, and, you know, thank you for everything you do. It's amazing.
My pleasure. Well, listen, when Life Force, our book, comes out that Tony and I are writing, let's get back together again and go into some more detail on that.
Yeah, I'd love to. Maybe get you and Tony together. That would be fun.
That would be fun. All right.
Brilliant. Thanks,
well,
Peter.
my friend. Thank you.
So you obviously like this video enough that you've got to the end. That's quite a big task. But listen, do me a favor, hit the like and subscribe button, and also check out what video's next, because I think you'll love it. But if you want even more, and when I'm talking more, I'm talking about member-generated ideas, incredible alpha, research, everything there to help you in your journey, just head to realvision.com/join for the best financial intelligence out there and the pure alpha that's within the platform.